Hi guys. Hello. Namaste Shreyash. How do you pronounce your name? Shreyash or Shreyas? Yes, I guess it's Shreyash, right? So guys, thanks for joining at such short notice. Let some people join. Before that, I will just show you guys one thing. There's this famous journalist you might have heard of, right? Tim Pool. He is very anti-establishment, etc. He used to work in Vice Media. Then he left Vice Media because it got too woke. And now he has his own YouTube channel. He has two YouTube channels. One in his personal name where he just does podcasts. And one where he hosts a panel discussion sort of a thing. It's called Timcast in real life. So there, now one person has joined his panel discussion team. His name is Seamus. He's a Christian American conservative. And he's a brilliant cartoonist. He has a YouTube channel called Freedom Toons, where he does absolutely phenomenal, hilarious political satire cartoons, which is inspired from the South Park style of storytelling. Not the South Park style of animation, but the South Park style of storytelling. So yesterday on Tim's show, he ended up saying something that we say all the time. He said that the fact that wokeism and modern feminism, transgenderism and divorce rates, all those agendas, all those that is percolating in even countries that were conservative up till now, countries like India, etc. That is sort of a new colonization for the day. And liberals don't have a problem with it. And if people went to these countries and did colonization and broke their temples, etc., he literally said if people broke their temples, etc., people would have a problem with that, and they should. But they don't seem to understand that wokeism today is a sort of a colonization of today as well. Okay, Shreyas is saying, Sachit Varshini, Ram. Okay, just watched new video of Rajiv Malhotra. It was awesome. Yeah, I guess it was on the economics of the woke politics, right? Hi Maximus. Great content incoming. So Maximus Prime, are you going to watch Optimus Prime next week? I'm definitely going to watch. It's one of my favorite movie series. So until more people join, so today we are going to discuss two papers. One is of 16 pages, one is of 4 pages. The first paper will be from Dr. Subhash Kak's 1999 work. It's called The Speed of Light and PURÂBIC Cosmology. And the second paper is just a 4-page paper, Indian binary numbers and the KATAPAYＡDI notation. But before that, let me just show you guys Seamus, that famous animator, calling wokeism the modern day colonization of hitherto conservative countries. Okay, check this out. This episode was really great, especially great. It was somewhere around 1 hour 25. Okay, let me just put on my headphone. So the topic of their discussion was that hello. Is my audio coming from one side? Hello. Oh yeah, it's fine. So the topic of their discussion was that that this woman works for kind of men's rights and mostly divorce cases, and she's currently in the middle of making a documentary on divorce laws in Canada, USA and UK, countries which have the worst divorce laws in the world. Even ours is pretty bad. So, and she's a former athlete, and she speaks out against transgenderism in women's sports. So she brought this up that people from India, especially, she mentioned India by name, that Indians message her and say that all the woke propaganda is getting infiltrated in our country as well. So that's when she must, the famous animator, said that it's modern day colonization.
Because I'm in a desperate mode. I'm not anymore, but at the time that was
like, it's getting harder for the woman as she gets older. So now she's like, I need a guy who's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But again, like, so when you have a culture like ours where the sexual revolution is just completely destroyed the relationship between both sexes, that seems to be what tends to happen. But like in most traditional cultures, that's not the case, right? Like, people settle down early, they get married, women are known for straying less often than men do. And so this is part of what I was emphasizing earlier. This is why, and I believe Fulton Sheen even said this, like, a society's value can be measured by the value of its women, because the men are always going to want to sleep around. The question is, are women going to be the gatekeeper and say, well, like, no, we're not having sex unless we're married, unless you can provide a stable home and family for myself and for our children, and you're actually going to stick around.
I guess there's a diminishing return to raising psychopaths. Like, if you'd have a lot of kids that were all horrible humans, that would be worse than having very few kids that were phenomenal humans. But then there comes a point where it's like population risk. You might lose the human population if you don't have enough kids. So it's better to just churn them out. But like, I think that in order to, like, is it better or worse in other societies where they didn't have a sexual revolution? The thing is, we have...
It's coming.
Well, no society has survived a sexual revolution.
I think it's coming everywhere. I think, like, with social media, like, I get messages from guys all over the world saying, okay, like, feminism is coming. And you have places that were typically, like, more traditional. Like, India has a 1% divorce rate. And I get messages all the time, like, saying that under 30, and I don't know the exact stat, but under 30, like, the divorce rate is rising because Western ideas are going everywhere. In my opinion, most places, I think it's going. I don't want it to get bad. Like, I don't want it to get worse. But if I had to predict it, I think, like, you will see women getting more modern.
Have you seen the psychological operations the military's been doing?
No.
They get like a 20-year-old
Oh my goodness. You see an increase. With what Pearl's saying about how in countries that were more traditional, you see an increase in these abnormal lifestyle choices. This is the one form of colonization and imperialism that the left is very, very comfortable with. If we went into these countries and we destroyed their temples or took their gold, the left would be very upset, and rightfully so. But instead, what we're doing is exporting ideas that literally destroy these people's families, and it's praised, it's celebrated.
But I wonder if you were able to pull, because now we're in the age of...
Okay, that's all I wanted you all to see. Good. So, see, this is why I say that there is a point of alliance possible between the global right, global conservatives, global civilized right, by which I mean to exclude the Pattharbaz, of course. But other than that, there is a possible alliance between all indigenous peoples of the world, but along with the Christian and Judaism conservatives. But of course, they will have to stop demanding conversion, and most people don't. And even if they do, see, we don't have to give in to their foreign policy suggestions. We can be allied in countering the wokes, the communists, the anti-capitalists, and the Pattharbaz. That's all I'm saying. Okay, lots of comments. Let me check from my phone. Ram bhai, Ram. Nina is saying, I think it is good that we discuss American political developments in advance, so we are able to counter our own leftists when they bring those ideas here. And yes, that is the most fascinating thing that has been happening in the last 2 or 3 years, especially after Corona, right? The Indian right wing or the Indic wing or the non-left has been following American politics to a large extent, and we are like every fast ball that comes to us, we are hitting sixers almost. We are doing a great job countering American woke propaganda. Okay. So let's see what were you all saying about Rajiv Malhotra's video. So video's conclusion is, Shreyas is saying, video's conclusion is that declining powers much more dangerous than rising powers. I see. Yeah, because they are more desperate perhaps. I only pay to watch Indian productions. Okay. Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Ram. Har Har Mahadev, Har Har Mahadev. 60% of Iranian mosques going empty. Recent news break. Yeah, I just saw that. Yeah, that is one problem, right? See, they get the benefit of being so united and all that every time someone says something, there's a Pattharbaz waiting outside your home. But then that rigor is becomes so tough that now people feel suffocated and want to leave the religion. That is one problem. Linguist is saying, brother, I sent on Instagram the way to counter missionaries from Old Testament. Have you seen that? No, I absolutely have not had the time today. Usually I wake up during this time, right? Today I'm already sleepy because I have been working from the morning. One urgent music project has come up. Okay, there is one advantage of being backward as we don't go woke. Yeah, let us know what. Okay, now let's get to our dharma is our shield. Yes. Let's get to Dr. Subhash Kak's paper. So if I do get I do have some remaining energy, I'll probably start Brahma Puran as I was supposed to, but I'm not sure I will. So we are just going to finish with 2 papers, but that's pretty big as well. 16 page and 4 pages. 11 pages. Let's see what happens. But I'm very fascinated and excited about discussing this paper because even you all have been following the Brahma Puran along with me. So this is about bringing out the theories of speed of light while connecting it with whatever Dr. Subhash Kak read in the Puranas. Interesting. And this paper is from 1999. So let's see. So let's not read the abstract because we are going to read the full paper anyway. Let's see what he has written. Indian texts consider light to be like a wind. Was any thought given to its speed? Given the nature of the analogy, one would expect that this speed was considered finite. The Puranas speak of the moving Jyotish Chakra, or the circle of light. This analogy, or that of the swift arrow let loose from the bow, in these accounts leaves ambiguous whether the circle of light is the sun or its speeding rays. We get a specific number that could refer to the speed of light in a medieval text by Shayana, 1315 to 1387 AD, Prime Minister in the court of Emperor Bukka I and his successors of the Vijayanagar Empire and Vedic scholar. In his commentary on the 4th verse of the hymn 1.50 of the Rig Veda on the sun, he says, Tathacha smaryate yojananam sahasre dve sate dve cha yojane ekena nimisardhena kramamana. Thus it is remembered, the translation is that thus it is remembered, O sun, you who traverse yojanas in half a nimesha. Okay, in Bengali, nimesh even today means about 1 second. Muhurta means also a second, but nimesh is also something akin to a second or a little lesser than a muhurta. The same statement occurs in the commentary on the Taittiriya Brahmana by Bhatta Bhaskara in the 10th century, where it is said to be an old Puranic tradition. The figure could refer to the actual motion of the sun, but as we will see shortly, that is impossible. Is it an old tradition related to the speed of sunlight that Shayana appears to suggest? We would like to know if that supposition is true by examining parallels in the Puranic literature. The units of yojana and nimesha are well known. In Bengali we say jojon. The usual meaning of yojana is about 9 miles as in the Arthashastra, where it is defined as being equal to 8,000 dhanu or bow, where each dhanu is taken to be about 6 feet. Aryabhatta, Brahmagupta and other astronomers use smaller yojanas, but such exceptional usage was confined to the astronomers. We will show that Puranas also use a non-standard measure of yojana. I see. As a scholar of the Vedas and a non-astronomer, Shayana would be expected to use the quote-unquote standard Arthashastra units. Okay, yeah, because he's a scholar of the Vedas and not an astronomer. Only astronomers were using non-standard measures. So the measure of time are thus defined in the Puranas as 15 nimesha is equal to 1 kastha, 30 kasthas is equal to 1 kala, 30 kalas is equal to 1 muhurta, 30 muhurtas is equal to 1 day and night. I see. 30 muhurta is 1 day and night, but in modern Bengali it has turned out to be 1 second. A nimesha is therefore equal to 16 by, okay, I can't read it. This is so small. I think it's 10 by 18 seconds, I guess. Can we zoom in a little more? No, this won't zoom in any further. That is the problem. They and Vartak have in recent books argued that this statement refers to the speed of light. Converted into modern units, it does come very close to the correct figure of 1,86,000 miles per second. Okay, this is interesting and creepy now. Impossible. I can't read what that's written. But I've given the link in the description box. Okay, guys, just you all if you all can click on the link and log in with some any of your Gmail ID. It's free. And then check on the second page of this paper. Okay, see if you can zoom in and check what the fraction number is. So they and Vartak have said that this is basically they were guessing the exact speed of light in the Puranas 1000 years ago. Such an early knowledge of this number doesn't sound credible because the speed of light was determined only in 1675 by Romer, who looked at the difference in the times that light from Io, one of the moons of Jupiter, takes to reach Earth based on whether it is on the near side of Jupiter or the far side. Until then, light was thought to travel with infinite velocity. There is no record of any optical experiments that could have been performed in India before the modern period to measure the speed of light. Maybe China's figures refer to the speed of the sun in its supposed orbit around the Earth, but that places the orbit of the sun at a distance of over 2,550 million miles. The correct value is only 93 million miles, and until the time of Romer, the distance to the sun used to be thought to be less than 4 million miles. The interpretation takes us nowhere. The Indian astronomical texts place the sun only about 500,000 yojanas from the Earth. Wow, this is sounding like a suspense story now. Okay, let's see what's the discussion going on here. Also, matrimonial laws are very anti-men, which are now being misused by many women. Yes. Also, Abhay countered them by saying that there are even fasts where men do for women. Yes. Sun around Earth. I can send you the video. But how popular are they compared to, let's say, Karva Chauth? Yeah, that is true. Okay. Maximus, where did they say that sun around the Earth? Did they say it anywhere? I missed it, I think. Or did I misread it? No. China's figure refers to the speed of sun. It is in its supposed orbit around the Earth. Oh yeah. So Subhash Kak is saying that they must have thought that the sun revolves around the Earth and therefore measured it that way. So that is the idea. By the way, guys, the speed of light is still assumed to be traveling in both directions. That is, incident and reflection in same. I see. Okay. So next, what about the possibility of fraud? China's statement was printed in 1890 in the famous edition of Rig Veda edited by Max Muller, the German Sanskritist. He claimed to have used several 300 or 400-year-old manuscripts of China's commentary, written much before the time of Romer, obviously. Is it possible that Muller was duped by an Indian correspondent who slipped in the line about the speed? Unlikely, because China's commentary is so well known that an interpolation would have been long discovered. And soon after Muller's quote-unquote Rig Veda was published, someone would have claimed that it contained this particular quote-unquote secret knowledge. Besides, a copy of China's commentary dated 1395 is preserved in the Central Library of Vadodara. One can dismiss China's number as a meaningless coincidence. But that would be a mistake if there exists a framework of ideas, an old physics, in which this number makes sense. We explored the prehistory of this number by considering early textual references. We will show that these references in the Puranas and the other texts indicate that China's speed is connected numerically to very ancient ideas. This helps us understand the framework of ideas regarding the universe that led to this figure. And every time someone talks about frameworks in the context of Sanatan Dharma, or discoveries or inventions in the case of India, Bharat, or the Vedic civilization, immediately I'm inclined to believe them, because frameworks is our main game, guys. We don't have to discover the exact things that are discovered now. It's not like just because we did not discover a Facebook or discover a Neuralink, therefore all our inventions, all of Hindu civilization, Bharatvarsha was useless. That is not the case. All modern discoveries and innovations, somehow or the other, you can notice, you will be able to notice if you do some even cursory reading, that they still either knowingly or unknowingly come under some framework in that field described by Sanatan Dharma, or basically Hindu texts or ancient Indian texts. Our frameworks were really on point in that case. And that's for people discussing divorce laws here. One great idea I heard from that woman, that athlete woman. She said that at least in the case of USA, Canada, that no fault divorce needs to be absolutely banned. That was the opinion of the woman. I don't know if India has no fault divorce laws, that okay, you don't even have to give a reason, just you are not feeling like having sex with this person, so separate. Who cares? You're free, you have freedom, bro. So let me know in the comment section, do we have no fault divorce laws or not? If we do, that's pretty scary. Okay, now let's see physical ideas in the Indian literature. The Vedas take the universe to be infinite in size. The universe was visualized in the image of the cosmic egg, or Brahma Anda. Beyond our own universe lie other universes. The Panchavimsa Brahmana in the verse 16.8.6 states that the heavens are 1000 earth diameters away from the earth. The sun was taken to be halfway. Sun was taken to be about halfway from the heaven. So this suggests a distance to the sun to be about 500 earth diameters from the earth, which is about 0.4375 million yojanas. Yajurveda in the mystic hymn 17, dealing with the nature of the universe, counts numbers in powers of 10 up to 10 to the power of 19. It has been suggested that this is an estimate of the size of the universe in yojanas. The philosophical school of Samkhya and Vaisheshika tell us about the old ideas on light. According to Samkhya, light is one of the 5 fundamental subtle elements, tanmatra, out of which emerge the gross elements. The atomicity of these elements is not specifically mentioned, and it appears that they were actually taken to be continuous. On the other hand, Vaisheshika is an atomic theory of the physical world on the non-atomic ground of ether, space and time. The basic atoms are those of earth, Prithvi, water, Apas, fire, Tejas and air, Vayu. That should not be confused with the ordinary meaning of these terms. I see. These atoms are taken to form binary molecules that combine further to form larger molecules. Motion is defined in terms of the movement of the physical atoms, and it appears that it is taken to be non-instantaneous. Light rays are taken to be a stream of high velocity of Tejas atoms. The particles of light can exhibit different characteristics depending on the speed and the arrangements of the Tejas atoms. Although there existed several traditions of astronomy in India, only the mathematical astronomy of the Siddhantas has been properly examined. Some of the information of the non-Siddhantic astronomical systems is preserved in the Puranas. The Puranic astronomy is cryptic, and since the Puranas are encyclopedic texts with several layers of writing, presumably by different authors, there are inconsistencies in the material. Sometimes speculative and the empirical ideas are so intertwined. Sometimes the speculative and the empirical ideas are so intertwined that without care, the material can appear meaningless. The Puranic geography is quite fanciful, and this finds parallels in its astronomy as well. Yeah, just like we read in the Brahma Purana as well, right? Sometimes it was seeming like they are actually describing a place called Patala or Naraka, or the place where Parvati and Mahadeva are getting married, which kind of describes Kedarnath. But at the same time, they are describing fantastical things, that Vimanas are landing, etc. So it's all intertwined. It has to come off they had to write it in a way that they were interesting stories at the end of the day. Otherwise, people would forget them. Otherwise, it would be as boring as our high school history. That is why people don't forget these stories, because they were written in such an interesting way. Okay, Nirari Singh, I think one has to go to court usually for normal proceedings. I see. Okay. We can begin the process of understanding Puranic astronomy by considering its main features, such as the size of the solar system and the motion of the earth. But before we do so, we will speak briefly of the notions in the Siddhantas. Size of the universe in the Aryabhatya. Aryabhatta in his Aryabhatya deals with the question of the size of the universe. क्या आदमी है, उस समय बैठ के सोच रहा था कि यूनिवर्स का साइज क्या होता है, चलो पता लगाते हैं. He defines a yojna to be 8,000, what's that unit? I don't know. NR, where NR is the height of a man. I see 8,000 height of a man. This makes his yojna approximately 7.5 miles. Okay. I don't know these mathematical equations, guys. Check out this equation, where YS is the standard Arthashastra Yojana. And Aryabhatya 1.6 states that the orbit of the sun is 2,887,666.8 yojanas, and that of the sky is some huge number, 12 million, 1,000 million, yeah. So 12,474,720,000. 12,474,720,576,000 yojanas. So that is the size of the sky. Commenting on this, Bhaskara in the year 629 says, Yavantam Akasha Pradesham Raver Mayukha Samantat Dyota Yanti Tavan Pradesha Khagolasya Paridhi Khakakshya Anyatha hi apari mitatvat akasya akasasya parimanakhyanam no papadyate. That much of the sky as the sun's rays illuminate all sides is called the orbit of the sky. Otherwise, the sky is beyond limit. It is impossible to state its measure. This implies that while the universe is infinite, the solar system extends as far as the rays of the sun can reach. There is no mention by Aryabhatta of a speed of light, but the range of light particles is taken to be finite. So it must have been assumed that the particles in the quote-unquote observational universe do not penetrate to the regions beyond the so-called orbit of the sky. This must have been seen in the analogy of the gravitational pull of the matter, just as other particles fall back on Earth after reaching a certain height. The orbit of the sky is 432 by 10 to the power of 4 greater than the orbit of the sun. It is clear that this enlargement was inspired by cosmological ideas. The diameters of the Earth, the Sun and the Moon are taken to be 1050, 4410 and 315 yojanas respectively. Furthermore, Aryabhatya 1.6 implies that the distance to the Sun, RS, okay, what was the sign for RS? RS kahan gaya? RS was probably in the previous page. Okay, sun's rays to be 459,585 yojanas, and that to the moon as 34,377 yojanas. These distances are in the correct proportion related to their assumed sizes, given that the distances are approximately 108 times the corresponding diameters. Converted to the standard Arthashastra units, the diameters of the Earth and the Sun are about 875 and 3,675 yojanas, and the distance to the Sun is around 0.383 million yojanas. Aryabhatta considers the orbits with respect to the Earth in the correct order: Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter and Saturn based on their periods. Now Puranic cosmology. Basically ye old comparison of Dashavatara with modern science plus roasting each other. More like forgetting Sanskrit. So are you planning to learn Sanskrit in near future? I don't know. I don't think I'm young enough to start Sanskrit, learning Sanskrit. All these numbers are connected to 3, 6 and 9. Yeah, that seems like it. Okay. Has anyone seen Anand Ranganathan's podcast with Kushal Mehra on evolution? Yes, I've seen it. That's where I learned of Richard Dawkins's screw up. So, the Puranas provide material which is believed to be closer to the knowledge of the Vedic times. Here we specifically consider Vayu Purana, Vishnu Purana and Matsya Purana. Vayu Purana and Vishnu Purana are generally believed to be amongst the earliest Puranas and at least 1500 years old. Their astronomy is prior to the Siddhantic astronomy of Aryabhatta and his successors. The Puranas instruct through myths the Puranas instruct through myths and this myth making can be seen in their approach to astronomy also. For example, they speak of several underground worlds, the Patala Naraka, below the orbital plane of the planets they speak of 7 continents encircling the earth, the Dvipas. So this is similar to Brahma Purana as well. One has to take care to separate this imagery that parallels the conception of the 7 centers of the human psychosomatic body from the underlying cosmology of the Puranas, that is their primary concern in their Jyotisha chapters. It could be noted that the idea of 7 regions of the universe is present in the Rig Veda, where the sun's stride is described as Saptadhaman of taking place in 7 regions. The different Puranas appear to reproduce the same cosmological material. There are some minor differences in figures that may be a result of wrong copying by scribes who did not understand the material. In this paper, we mainly follow Vishnu Purana. Vishnu Purana 2.8 describes the sun to be 9,000 yojanas in length and to be connected by an axle that is 15.7 by 10 to the power of 5 yojanas long to the Manasa mountain. So Manas Sarovar, I guess, Kailasha. Manasa mountain and another axle 45,500 yojanas long connected to the pole star. The distance 15.7 million yojanas between the earth and the sun is much greater than the distance of 0.38 or 0.4375 million yojanas that we find in the Siddhantas and other early books. The greater distance is stated without a corresponding change in the diameter of the sun. It is interesting that this distance is less than 1.5 times the correct value. The value of the Siddhantas is 1/30th of the correct value. Elsewhere in Vayu Purana 50, it is stated that the sun covers 3.15 million yojanas in Muhurta. This means, and remember that Muhurta is about 24 hours basically, or 1 day, 1 night. So, yeah. This means that the distance covered in a day, so 1 day, 24 hours. This means that the distance covered in a day are 94.5 million yojanas. I see. So some 12 hours, I guess. So Matsya Purana 124 gives the same figure. This is in agreement with the view that the sun is 15.7 million yojanas away from the earth. The specific speed given here translates to 116.67 yojanas per half nimesha. The size of the universe is described in 2 different ways: through the island continents, quote unquote island continents or dvipas, and through heavenly bodies. The geography of the Puranas describes a continent, Jambu, surrounded by alternating bands of ocean and land. The 7 island continents of Jambu, Plaksha, Shalmala, Kusha, Kroncha, Shaka and Pushkara are encompassed successively by 7 oceans. Yes, we have learned these things in the Brahma Purana as well. And each ocean and continent is respectively is encircled by 7 oceans. And each ocean and continent is respectively of twice the extent of that which precedes it. Okay, so whatever a name is given, that name is that dvipa or that continent is twice the size of the previous one. So Plaksha is twice the size of Jammu. Shalmala is twice the size of Plaksha, etc. The universe is seen as a sphere of size 500 million yojanas. It is important to realize that the continents are imaginary regions and they should not be confused with the continents on the earth. I see. Only certain part of the innermost planet Jambu that deal with India have parallels with real geography. बाकी सब इमेजिनेशन हो गया, या फिर उनके पास गूगल मैप तो नहीं था, यहाँ वहाँ पैदल जाके जज करना पड़ता था कि कहाँ कॉन्टिनेंट शुरू कहाँ कॉन्टिनेंट खत्म, एंड दे वुड प्रोबेबली जज इट ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द फ्लोरा एंड फौना, एंड दैट वुड बी वेरी इजीली रॉन्ग. The inner continent is taken to be 16,000 yojanas as the base of the world axis, in opposition to the interpretation by earlier commentators who took the increase in dimension by a factor of 2 is only across the 7 quote-unquote continents, the dvipas. We take it to apply to the oceans as well. At the end of the 7 island continents is a region that is twice the preceding region. Further on is the Loka mountain, 10,000 yojanas in breadth, that marks the end of our universe. This is great. This is great because we will resume the Brahma Purana tomorrow or day after tomorrow. That marks the end of our universe. Assume that the size of the Jambu is J yojana, then the size of the universe is okay. So the size of universe is J into 1 plus 2 plus 2 to the power of 2 plus 2 to the power of 2 plus 2 to the power of 3 plus 2 to the power of 1 plus 2 to the power of 5 plus 2 to the power of 6 plus 2 to the power of 7 plus 2 to the power of 8 and so on. You all can see it from here up till plus 2 to the power of 14. Or therefore the universe, the size of the universe is, according to Matsya Purana, 32,767 yojanas, 32,767 into Jambu plus 10,000 yojanas. If universe is 500 million miles, then Jambu should be about 15,260 yojanas. The round figure of 16,000 is mentioned as the width of the base of the Meru, the world axis, at the surface of the earth. This appears to support our interpretation. Note that the whole description of the Puranic cosmology had been thought to be inconsistent because an erroneous interpretation of the increase in the sizes of the continents had been used, the so-called continents. When considered in juxtaposition with the preceding numbers, the geography of concentric continents is a representation of the plane of the Earth's rotation, with each new continent as the orbit of the next quote-unquote planet, because they are not actually planets. Kininer is saying, I read these descriptions of our geography in Markandeya Purana as well. I see. So planet. The planetary model in the Puranas is different from that in the Siddhantas. Here, the moon as well as planets are in orbits higher than the sun. Originally, this supposition for the moon may have represented the fact that it goes higher than the sun in its orbit. Given that the moon's inclination is 5 degrees to the ecliptic, its declination can be 28.5 degrees compared to the sun's maximum declination of plus minus 23.5 degrees. This quote-unquote so-called higher position must have been at some stage represented literally by a higher orbit. To make some sense with the observational reality, it became necessary for the moon is taken to be twice as large as the sun. The distances of the planetary orbits beyond the sun are as follows. Okay. So, distance from Earth to sun, 15,700,000 yojanas. Distance from sun to moon, 100,000 yojanas. Different from moon to asterisms, 100,000 yojanas. Asterisms to Mercury, 200,000 yojanas. Mercury to Venus, 200,000 yojanas. Venus to Mars, 200,000 yojanas. Mars to Jupiter, 200,000 yojanas. Jupiter to Saturn, 200,000 yojanas. Saturn to Ursa Major, 100,000 yojanas. Ursa Major to Pole Star, 100,000 yojanas. So a subtotal of 17,100,000 yojanas. Further, spheres are postulated beyond the pole star. These are the Maharloka, the Janaloka, the Tapoloka, and the Satyaloka. Their distances are as follows. Pole star to Maharloka is 10 million yojanas. Maharloka to Janaloka is 20 million yojanas. Janaloka to Tapoloka is 40 million yojanas. Tapoloka to Satyaloka is 120 million yojanas. Total of 207,100,000 yojanas. Since the last figure is the distance from the Earth, the total diameter of the universe is 414.2 million yojanas, not including the dimensions of the various heavenly bodies and lokas. The inclusion of these may be expected to bring this calculation in line with the figure of 500 million yojanas mentioned earlier, so it's consistent. Beyond the universe lies the limited pradhana that has within it countless other universes. So the pradhana is where all the universes lie. Okay, discussion on how Hindu philosophy is not necessarily in conflict to Darwin's theory of evolution. Yeah, Kushal Mehra will have to do it. Uddhish Jagrat Bharat, even in first sem we are taught technologies discovered based on evolution theory, so that basically means these should not work out, but they do. Yeah, and it's being taught in class 11 instead of class 9, that's all. Okay, so the pradhana has within it countless other universes. Puranic cosmology views the universe as going through cycles of creation and destruction of 8.64 billion years. The consideration of a universe of enormous size must have been inspired by a supposition of enormous age. Now reconciling Puranic and standard yojanas. It is clear that the Puranic yojana are different from the Arthashastra yojana. To find the conversion factor, we equate distances to the sun. Because Arthashastra came much earlier. Arthashastra is written about 2300 years ago, and Puranas are written about 800 to 1500 years ago. So 0.4375 into 10 to the power of 6 yojanas is equal to 15.7 into 10 to the power of 8 Puranic yojanas. In other words, one Arthashastra yojana is equal to 36 Puranic yojana. I see. So the diameter of the earth should now be about 875 into 36. I forgot what that sign is. You all can see hopefully here. Check this out. Okay. There are two lines and a cross sign. I'm not a maths or science student, so I'm very out of my depth here. The diameter of the earth should now be about 875 into 36. That's something. And 31,500 Puranic yojanas. Perhaps this was taken to be 32,000 Puranic yojanas, twice the size of Meru. This understanding is confirmed by the statements in the Puranas. For example, Matsya Purana 126 says that the size of Bharatvarsha, India, is about 9,000 Puranic yojana, which is roughly correct. But there was no India before 1947. We conclude that the kernel of the Puranic system is consistent with the Siddhantas. The misunderstanding of it arose because attention was not paid to their different units of distance. Speed of the sun. Now that we have a Puranic context, Shaina's statement on the speed of 2202 yojanas per half nimesha can be examined. So that is what Shaina has said, that the speed of light is 2202 yojanas per half nimesha. Oh. Speed of the sun. We cannot be absolutely certain that yojanas did he have in mind standard. We cannot be absolutely certain what yojanas did he have in mind. They are talking about Shainacharya, I guess. What yojanas did he have in mind, standard or Puranic? But either way, it is clear from the summary of Puranic cosmology that this speed could not be the speed of sun. At the distance of 15.7 million yojanas, sun's speed is only 121.78 yojanas, Puranic yojanas per half nimesha. Or if we use the figure from Vayu Purana, it is 116.67. Converted into the standard yojanas, this number is only 3.24 Arthashastra yojanas per half nimesha. Shayana's speed is about 18 times greater than the supposed speed of the sun in Puranic yojana, and 2 by 18 to the power of 2 times greater than the speed in Arthashastra yojana. So either way, a large number with a definite relationship to the actual speed of the sun was chosen for the speed of light. The Puranic size of the universe is 13 to 16 times greater than the orbit of the sun, not counting the actual sizes of the various heavenly bodies. Perhaps the size was taken to be 18 times greater than the sun's orbit. It seems reasonable to assume then that if the radius of the universe was taken to be about 282 million yojanas, a speed was postulated for light so that it could circle the farthest path in the universe within one day. This was the physical principle of the basis of the Puranic cosmology. Okay, now we are nearing the end of the paper. Concluding remarks, guys. We have seen that the astronomical numbers in the Puranas are much more consistent amongst themselves and with the generally accepted size of the solar orbit than has been hitherto assumed. The Puranic geography must not be taken literally. We have also shown that the Shayana's figure of 2202 yojanas per half nimesha is consistent with Puranic cosmology, where the size of quote unquote our universe is a function of the speed of light. The size represents the space that can be spanned by light in one day. It is quite certain that the figure for speed was obtained either by this argument, or it was obtained by taking the postulated speed of the sun in the proposed speed of sun in the Puranas and multiplying that by 18, or by multiplying the speed in standard yojanas by 2 into 2 by 18 to the power of 2. We do know that 18 is a sacred number in the Puranas, because there are 18 Puranas as far as I remember, and the fact that multiplication with the special number gave a figure that was in accord with the spanning of light in the universe in one day. With the spanning of light in the universe in one day must have given it a special significance. Is it possible that the number 2202 arose because of a mistake of multiplication by 18 rather than a corresponding division by 36 to reduce the sun's speed to standard yojanas? Interesting. The answer to that must be no. Okay, because such a mistake is too egregious. Furthermore, Shayana's own brother Madhava was a distinguished astronomer, and the incorrectness of this figure for the accepted speed of the sun would have been obvious to him. If Shayana's figure was derived from a postulated size of the universe, how was that a huge size so central to all Indian thought arrived at? A possible explanation is that the physical size of the universe was taken to parallel the estimates of its age. These age estimates were made larger and larger to postulate a time when the periods of all the heavenly bodies were synchronized. The great number of the Puranas suggest that the concepts of Mahayuga and Kalpa, sometimes credit to the astronomers of the Siddhantic period, must have had an old pedigree. So, which means they had an old lineage of learning these things. This is in consonance with the new understanding. That considerable astronomy was in place in the 2nd and the 3rd millennia BC. We have provided a context in which Shayana's speed can be understood. In this understanding, the speed of light was taken to be 2 into 18 to the power of 2 greater than the speed of the sun in standard yojanas, so that light can travel the entire postulated size of the universe in one day. It is a lucky chance that the final number turned out to be exactly equal to the true speed. Shayana's value as speed of light must be considered most astonishing blind hit in the history of science. Shayanacharya almost guessed the exact speed of light 1200 or how many years ago he was? I think 1100 years back. So that's the end of this paper, guys. Now the next paper, which is just 4 pages long. Let me check some comments in the meantime. How old is this paper? This paper is from 1999. Now the next paper we will discuss is from the year 2000. हर साल बैठ के वो पेपर लिख रहा है, whereas when he is already a full-time professional in USA. Okay, for Vedic interpretation we use Puranic concepts as written in Mahabharata 1.1.267, implying something is fishy. Okay, maybe changes meaning or interpretation. চেয়ারে তেল দাও, কেন প্রচুর আওয়াজ হচ্ছে? Okay, I'll start the next paper now. Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan have raised objections on portrayal of Akhand Bharat in our new parliament building. Who? Bangladesh. Yeah, Bangladesh. We don't care. Nepal, they are backstabbers. They are Maoists. Bhutan, they kicked out Hindus. So I don't see why we have to give a shit about them. Hopefully, Narendra Modi doesn't give a shit about them. Okay. Indian binary numbers and the KATA-PAYADI notation. Those who have studied in Bengali medium, at least in government boards, I think have studied KATA-PAYADI numbers, because my friend Shayak Paul, the machine learning expert, was saying when I told him about this paper that he was made to study all this in his West Bengal board maths syllabus. Okay, what is this? Chanda Shastra. Weeb and Newton has well summarized the description of binary numbers by Pingala Naga in his Chanda Shastra, here represented by CS. Chanda Shastra, okay. According to an old tradition, Pingala was the younger brother of Panini. This is so stated by Sadguru Shishya in his Vedartha Dipika. If this tradition is correct, he should be assigned to the 5th century BC, the most likely period of Panini's life. It has not been recognized that Pingala's Chanda Shastra can throw light on the long controversy regarding the age of KATA-PAYADI notation of representing numerals as letters of the alphabet. The earliest attested date for it appears to be a text by Bhaskara I belonging to the 7th century AD, whereas if it is indeed done by Panini's brother, then it has to be assigned to 5th century BC. Although many scholars have argued that the KATA-PAYADI sequence scheme goes as early as Vararuchi, and its earliest use should belong squarely in the centuries before Christ. They have not been able to provide an unambiguous usage which is that early. The object of this note is to provide that early evidence of a form of the KATA-PAYADI scheme. Triplets of syllables. Sanskrit meters are based on the system of short laghu and long guru syllables, represented here by 1 and 0. Binary, okay. So, laghu is 1, guru is 0. No. Is this in order? Is this respectively? Otherwise, guru should be 1 and laghu should be 0. Let's see if they delve into it further. Classification schemes for meters go back very early, the early Vedic age, and their great significance in Vedic literature, I guess. Vedic texts. Yeah, Vedic thought. May be gleaned, maybe noticed from the extensive recurring discussion of them in the Shatpad Brahmana. Meters of different lengths are described. In Chanda Shastra, two basic classificatory schemes for meters are presented. One of them is direct, and it represents a regular binary number mapping. The other represents a meter in terms of groups of 3 syllables, which is really an octal representation of numbers. Aitareya Brahmana says that originally the Trishtub, one of the most important of the meters, was 3 syllabic, and this cryptic remark may indicate the great antiquity of the octal representation. Pingala gives the following representation for the verse feet in Chanda Shastra Adhyaya 1. So the Pingala mapping says Ma is 000. If 000 is laghu, Y is laghu guru guru, R is laghu guru laghu, S is 110, T 001, J 101, Bha 011, Na 011. So strictly speaking, each of the letters should be written together with the vowel as in Ma for 000. Note further that the 8 sequences fall into 2 complementary subclasses when zeros and ones are interchanged. Thus, Ma, E, R, Sa are in one group and ta, ja, bha, na are in another. The mapping of table 1 represents a binary number coding of 3 syllables, accepting that the order of the bits is reversed from our modern representation. So the bit on the left is the least significant and the one on the right is the most significant. We also note parenthetically that rather than ranking the sequences from 0 to 2 to the power of n minus 1, they were ranked from 1 to 2 to the power of n. I see. But this was done by adding 1 to the computer numerical value of each sequence. But this process made it clear that Pingala understood perfectly the binary number system, which maps the numbers from 0 on, as has been explained by Van Newton. So you see, this is why our Sanatan Dharm's frameworks are so brilliant. This is pure brilliant stuff. More on the Kātāpayādi scheme. Now from Pingala to the Kātāpayādi mapping, which is known in 4 basic variants. The most commonly used Kātāpayādi scheme is as shown below. Ka, kha, ga, gha, na, cha, cha, ja, jha, nya, ta, tha, da, dha, na, ta, tha, da, dha, na, pa, pha, ba, bha, ma, I, ri, la, va, sa, sha, sha, ha, I. Comparing the Pingala's assignment of table 1 with the standard Kātāpayādi scheme of table 2, we see that there exists fundamental similarity in the two schemes, the differences being a switch between the pa and the sh groups, and the numbers above 3 have been mapped rather irregularly. Below we give our construction of the mapping behind the Pingala scheme, which in analogy with the Kātāpayādi may be called Kātāyāsādi. Kātāyāsādi, and for compactness we will call it KTYS. Okay. So now the Kātāyāsādi scheme. Ka, kha, ga, gha, nya, cha, cha, ja, jha, nya, ta, tha, da, dha, na, ta, tha, da, dha, na, pa, pha, ba, bha, ma, I, ra, la, va, sa, sha, sa, ha. The mapping of the numbers 0, 1, 2, 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So from right to left. The mapping of the numbers 0, 1, 2, 3 in table 1 is according to this scheme in the previous table. Okay, check this out once more. Since the basic mapping is in groups of 5, Pingala had to make adaptation to apply it to his 8 numbers. The complements of the first 4 sequences were mapped to 6, 8, 9 and 0. In other words, columns 4 of gha, dha, va, ha, 5 and 7. 5 has na and nya, and column 7 has cha, tha, pha. So columns 4, 5, 7 were left unused. Given that in such a mapping 2 columns had to be left unused, the only matter of significance is why column 9 was assigned to sequences 0 and 7 at the same time. It appears that was done to suggest that sequence 7, the largest number in the set, was akin to the largest number in the set. It is possible that Pingala modified the standard Kātāpayādi mapping to the variant form of table 3 because 2 letters, ga and la, were already assigned to the Guru and Laghu syllables. Oh, I see. Because they were going to use the words Guru and Laghu for 0 and 1 already, right? So they had to modify the column of Ga and La. Were already assigned to the Guru and Laghu syllables since Ga and La for 3 were unavailable, and not wishing to use the cerebral Da, Pingala was obliged to develop a new mapping. Wow. Note that the table 3 is used with some symmetry where the 6 outer columns are used along with one of the middle ones. If one were to consider the 5 group Sanskrit alphabet, the assignment from the group is in the frequency of 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. The first column supplying ta, I, the second ra, the third ja, sa, the fourth bha, and the fifth ma, na. Maybe this symmetry was another consideration that led to table 1. Concluding remarks. The systematic manner in which Pingala chose his mapping throws important light on the history of the Kaṭāpayādi mapping. It is almost certain that the variant Kaṭāyāshādi existed around this time, existed around his time, as might have other variants including Kaṭāpayādi as well. This takes the history of the Kaṭāpayādi mapping more than 1,000 years earlier than had been supposed. And that brings us to the end of this paper. Wow, this was pretty harrowing stuff for an art student like me. ब्लैक फ्लैग इंडिया ने रिप्लाई किया है. कहाँ रिप्लाई किया है? उसके चैनल पे या मेरे वीडियो पे? और आर यू आस्किंग मी रिप्लाई किया है कि नहीं? इंटरेस्टिंग. लेट मी नो. द प्रोफाइल कॉल्ड स्टूडेंट. Okay, linguist is saying Shreyash they were using, and in fact like our day for notations like nano, micro, macro, etc. was also used based like we see work of Aryabhat. I see. This whole geopolitics thing is a sham. There's only a handful of countries with any power at all. For example, Canada has 10 million able citizens. We can just unleash Haryana on them. Anyway, I'm just enjoying the meltdown, especially leftist news portals want to make it a geopolitical issue. If they want to make it a geopolitical issue, it's even better. Half the people in Bangladesh and Pakistan and around the world don't even know that India used to be that big. So let them know. इस उपलक्ष्य में लोगों को पता भी चल जाएगा कि साइज क्या था और क्या हो गया. Okay, I'll go offline soon, guys. I don't have the energy to discuss any more papers today. Otherwise, I would have gotten into Brahma Purana. But let's see if someone replies about Black Flag replying or something. Let's just stay online up till then. Project Shivoham channel made a documentary on binary system and Chandashastra. I see. Yeah, that channel, I keep hearing about it, but I just don't get time to check out that channel because it's mainly education. Educational channel के लिए तो थोड़ा focus लेके time लेके बैठना पड़ेगा ना. मेरा educational time कब होता है दिन में? अगर मैं खुद book पढ़ता हूँ या फिर लाइव स्ट्रीम में पेपर पढ़ता हूँ. एजुकेशनल चैनल देखने का ज़्यादा टाइम नहीं होता है. बाकी सब थोड़ा बहुत अब पॉलिटिक्स में अपडेटेड रहने के लिए वो पॉलिटिकल चैनल देख के ही दिन कट जाता है. गिटार डेमो ना थक. There's a book by Venkat Dhulipala, Politics of Secularism. Have you read that? No, I didn't know that. When did he write this book? I've kept a track of all the papers he has written. Damn. Ashwin Subramania, good night, Dada. Good night. I couldn't find it anywhere. Okay, then I'll check it out. I'll ask my friend if they have in their college online library. Okay. Yeah, good idea. I didn't know he has written another book. I thought he has written just that one book only. Okay, then good night, guys. Thanks for joining in such short notice. I hope all the science and math students understood this paper much more than I did. This was pretty tough for me to understand. I did grasp the gist of it though, that all of this had some relevance and there are evidence to prove that binary numbers, speed of light, all were discussed or at least near about to the correct extent in our ancient texts. Mudgal. Yes, I have a Mudgal. Shubh Ratri, guys. Yes. Good night. See you soon.